Hello. So in this video I'd like to kind of just walk through building a website from the mock-up. This is, again, we're keeping it very simple. This is just the first one. We can get more complex later, but this can be kind of like an example of the most rudimentary thing you can do while it still looks okay, kind of like an actual website. But again, it's as simple as possible. So I'm here at REPL. I've got some assets already created. I will create a kind of walkthrough. I mean, I guess this is it. But I will create a post on the classroom, which will have these files so that you can follow along and do the same thing. If you want to make the exact same thing I'm making, that'd be fine. Otherwise, you can use your own images and make it your own from the start while still following the example in this video. So the first thing I'm going to do is here at replit.com, I'm just going to create a new Html5 project, and I'm going to call this mockup1. It's no longer going to be a mockup, it's going to be an actual site, but it's from the mockup that I made. So when you start, there's nothing. If I run it, you see, I guess it says hello world. But you don't really have much else. You have this scaffolding of an HTML document. It is linked, as you can see, to a file called the style.css style sheet. That is here. It is empty. It is also connected to a script.js file, which we are not going to use yet. So that's a little bit more, I guess, at the end of the course, where we'll go into some script. We might do a little bit just to add some button functionality. But right now I'm really just looking at how do you lay things out the way you want, how do you add the content that you want, and how do you style things to look like you want. In this HTML document, the body is where all the content goes that people see, other than this link to the script file. People like to put the link to the script file here in the body after everything else, I guess because they're thinking that sometimes the script will try to do something with something that's on the page, like maybe it'll add a click function to an image. And they want to make sure that the stuff has loaded already before the script tries to look for it. So they kind of put it in the body after everything else. That is a convention that you'll see. We're not really going to use the script. You can delete it. That'd be fine. Maybe we'll use it later, so I'm just going to leave it. But really, inside of these body tags is where we're going to be putting all of our content. Now, the rest of this you can kind of ignore. There's a head section which we're going to kind of ignore, just so long as you have this link to the style sheet here. That would be good. That way we can put some styles in the CSS file. But we're going to start in the HTML inside of the body tags. So I'm going to be replacing this hello world with our actual site. So what am I making? I am making, let's see, I'm making this site. So I just did this in Inkscape. It is just, I used the rectangle tool. I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rectangles. I kind of arranged it like a website looks. I just made stuff up. So in Inkscape I just made a star, I duplicated it, I overlapped them and got the intersection. I kind of cut one star out of the other, and I cut both stars so that where they overlap got cut out, and I made this kind of, it's not even that good of a logo. It's just, actually it's not bad. The more I think about it, it's actually not too bad. But it is just a random thing that kind of looks like a logo. I like the 2 stars. I thought Gemini, but I think I've already made a fake brand called Gemini. So I just called this binary with an I. And fine, whatever. So it doesn't really matter anything. You could do a circle. I just wanted something that kind of looked like a logo. So I made a graphic there. This I actually have as a graphic. It's not text. I think this is a graphic I made. Well, all of this I made in Inkscape, but I exported all these things as graphics, as you can see. So here's the star. That is really small. I should have made it bigger. It doesn't matter for this example. Here's the binary words. Yeah, these are really small. Wow. This is going to look kind of ugly. Sorry about that. I should have made these bigger. This is that butterfly. Why do I guess that's fine. Here's this little man in front of what looks like a Windows logo. This is supposed to be the loaf of bread on a plate. And then I found this picture on pixabay.com. I just did a search for smiling. I was looking for people like having a good time. I thought that'd look good for my website. I saw this dog and I liked that it had 2 different color eyes. I thought that went with binary and I thought it was a cute dog, so I was like, okay, I'll use that picture. And then I put it in my Inkscape mock-up and I realized, oh, it's almost the exact same color theme I came up with. So I went to the palette mallet and I just refreshed it a couple times and I came up with this palette. I think I changed this from a yellow to a green, the button. But other than that, it's just kind of randomly created on the palette mallet. And I like it. I think it looks good. Everything's in contrast. Nothing seems to vibrate. Like the colors don't really seem to clash that much. There's all good contrast. I've got a couple of darker shades and a couple of lighter shades and a call to action button color. So that was all good. So I just saved this. I brought it into Inkscape and I just used a little ink dropper thing to steal the colors off of it. And I made this mock-up. So notice that this is the exact same pattern as this gave me. So there's a blue background, brick colored thing here. So that's the guy. A light blue highlight. I used that for the header text. And I used the little greenish yellow color for the text here, just like it was in the palette mallet. And then I copied that green. And I think I don't know. I think this text is actually the same color as this text, whereas in the palette mallet it is white. Whatever. When we do it, you'll see how you can change it yourself. But I just copied this exact pattern, and then using the exact same colors, just permutated into a different arrangement. I've got different sections that are all the same. This one doesn't seem to have body text. It's just a header. And this one is a very short header. But I made graphics sort of in the same color as what the graphics that I have here and here. The light, that looks more yellow to me than this one. Oh well, I came up with a greenish tint to it for some reason. Maybe not, maybe it just looks that way to me. These are supposed to be the same color, but maybe I made a mistake. I don't think those are the same color. It might just be my monitor. Maybe things at the top of the screen look different than at the bottom right now. But those are supposed to be the same color. It's supposed to be kind of like a very pale yellow. But anyway, and then I kind of made that up. Like I just made like 2 circles and cut it so it fit inside of another circle. And I came up with a user icon, like anonymous use, like before you choose an avatar. Profile icon for up here, and I use this as branding areas. Other than that, I just drew some lines so that you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equally spaced columns. I'm using the inner 3 for my content to fit my content to. Actually, I did a better job at, this one. I kind of rearranged it a little bit tighter to the grid. So I'm using the inner 3 for the content mostly. I guess the pictures kind of stick out a little bit. I've got the call to action buttons kind of aligned in the center column. And then these 2 on the outside I cut in half to make little half columns. So there's actually small little parts of this column over here. And the logo and stuff, they don't go all the way to the edge. They stay a little bit off from the edge, but they do bleed out from the central part. And I'm planning on maybe adding a drop-down menu at some point. Probably not right away though. So I might finish out this video without that. We'll see. I think I'm just going to try to go straight through and make most of this in this video. So sorry if it's a little long, but you can pause it and come back. Okay. So this little stuff here I'll explain later. I'm kind of naming these different regions so that I can grab them when I want to style stuff. So that I've got this header bar. I guess I'll leave it. We'll talk about it now. This is the header bar. So I notice there's no like dot in front of the header or hashtag like you see in front of other things. It turns out that there's a way that you can grab things with your style sheet so that you can style different HTML elements. So if I want to style the header, I got to be able to select it, which means I need the right kind of like search term for the thing that finds it. So this thing will be called a header element, and I can find it by just typing header. But I'm also going to have sort of custom named elements. So I'm going to name this div, this thing I'm going to make, I'm going to name it, I'm going to give it an ID, a unique identifier, and I'm going to give it an ID of account. And then in the style sheet, when I access that, to grab the thing with the ID of account, when you're grabbing something by the ID, you just put a hashtag. So that has its own special name. That's why I put a hashtag. This is a generic HTML element, so I can just grab it by its tag, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I go into it. This I named this region the logo ID. This I gave an ID of the mark, like the trademark. The difference being between logo and trademark is that the logo means words. So it's the way you write the name in words that's typically the logo, and the little symbol is the trademark. So it's not the logo because there's no words. A lot of people kind of confuse those. I used to, but I guess that's a good way to say what you mean and know what you're talking about, is that there's the mark and then there's the logo. I kind of just generically call it the mark instead of like the trademark, because I guess there are technically service marks, trademarks, I think there's other marks. It gets a little confusing. So like you'll see next to some marks a little TM for trademark. You'll see a little circled R for registered trademark. I guess there's an SM for a service mark. I don't think I've ever seen it. Anyway, I don't know really. I just call them generically marks. So like, because like a school, do we sell? We don't sell objects. We sell our services. So I would think that we have a service mark, but our school actually has a little TM. I guess it's a trademark. I don't know. I find it a little confusing. So I just kind of just call them generically marks. So I hope if I say that, that's what I mean. Anyway, I'm going to give this region the ID of mark, this region the ID of logo, this region the ID of account. I'm giving this whole big div here the ID of landing pad, and I'll put images inside of it. In fact, you can do more than one. We might do a little slideshow here. Then this next region, I did not give it its own ID for this region or this region. I'm calling these blocks. So instead of an ID is when you have just one of those things. I only have one mark on this page, and it goes there. I only have one logo on this page, and it's there. These are unique identifiers, so they're IDs. That's why there's the hashtag. But things that you want to be able to grab, but you want to apply the same styles to multiple things, then it's not an ID that you want to style them by. it's a class, because you can give the same class to more than one object. And in fact, objects can have more than one class. So I'm creating what's called a block class, and this element here, this element here, and this element here, there's similarities enough that enough of the styling is going to be the same for all of them. So I want to kill here 3 birds with 1 stone, and I want to write the code for the block class, and I just want it to apply to these three things at the same time. I don't want to write it 3 times. So I'm giving them the same class, and it's going to be called the block class. So I put a dot to show that I want to give it a class of block. This should be a class too. All these things in here inside of this, these should be classes. So I put hashtags inside here. I should have put dots, because there's a block title here, and there's a block title here, and there's a block title here. So there's not just one of them. Idea is when you have one thing. Class is when you've got a lot of them that all fit the same convention. So the colors are different, but the fonts I want to use, the font size, the positioning is mostly the same. You'll see. Then again, this should be a dot block graphic because it's a class, but I'm going to put an image here, image here, image here. And then just a little paragraph of some, I don't know, I called it legal here. It's just going to be a little copyright, a website, an email address, contact information, and all rights reserved. Maybe a cookie policy, like what data do those people store about me? Maybe you got to have a link about how you handle data, legally speaking. So maybe you want something about that down here. Anyway, so that's kind of like a very typical layout. It's very vertically arranged so that it looked fine on a phone. It might look a little stupid on a desktop when you got like a super wide screen maybe, because all of your stuff is going to kind of be not take advantage of the space as well. But this is a mobile first design. I'm trying to keep it very basic but still look okay. Not like so basic it's super ugly. But I think this looks good. I like the color arrangements. I think it looks kind of like a real site. Okay, so let's build it. So I need to get these images into REPL. So I'm going to go to REPL, and I'm just going to drag them in. Here they all are. I need the dog. I don't need the mock-up picture, and I don't need this. So I need everything except for these ones. And then I'm just going to drag them into REPL. And now I've got images. Here's my dog. Here's my loaf. These are way too small. I exported them at the wrong size. So the mock-up I'm going to make is going to look kind of ugly. It's going to look pixelated. Sorry about that. I'll try to get nicer assets when I post this to Google Classroom so that you can download the images and follow along, and yours will look better than mine right now. But I did not realize how small how pixelated these are going to look. But it'll be fine. Okay, so again, I want to build this. So I need a header. I need 1, 2, 3, 4 divs, and then I need a footer. That's all in my body, straight away. Okay, so let's do that. So header, and notice it's kind of suggesting something to me. I'm going to press enter, and there I go. I have a header element now in HTML. Done. All right, I need a div. Enter. I've got a div. Okay, I want to give this div, if you remember, the class of, oh no, I'm sorry, I've got another thing here. So I've got a landing pad. So I want to give it an ID, a unique identifier. ID equals, so I go inside of the first tag of the 2-tag pair, and after the div, I can set an attribute. This attribute is ID. I'm just going to call it landing pad. And I'm using what's called camel case, kind of like a camel has humps. So I just put the words all together as one, but every time I start a new word, I capitalize it so that it's easier to read, even though it's all smushed together. So this is landing pad. And then I'm going to make another div, and this is going to be my first block. So I'm just going to give it a class of block. And to copy that, what I like to do, just to see what I'm talking about here, I want to make 3 copies of that, but let me just take a second to show you a nice way to copy and paste something to make duplicates in code in an editor like REPL. If I copy that, I press Control C. I don't have to click elsewhere. I can just press Control V and it'll just paste it over top, and that's a quick little shortcut. But if I press Control V again, it puts it like right there. So what I like to do is actually not just copy that line, but I click at the end of the line and I hold and I drag my mouse up to the next line and I go to the end of that line, and you'll see that I'm kind of copying this. The reason I like to do that is because I get a line break. It's like pressing enter automatically in what you copy. So I'm going to press Control C and then Control V to paste right over top, and then I press Control V again and again, and now I have my 3 blocks. But it automatically did the line drop for me. So that's why I like to do that. When I copy a line, I just click here, go up to the next line, and I copy that way. And then I can paste. It's just a little bit nicer. So I wanted 3 of those. Now, one thing you can do is if you press Tab, you can indent more. And sometimes when you paste with the line break, it indents too much. To undo that, just hold Shift and press Tab again, and that will unindent. That's kind of how you do that. Tab, you have to be at the beginning to do that, but Shift Tab, you can be anywhere and it'll unindent. Okay, so I've got my header, I've got my landing pad, I've got 3 blocks, and what else do I need? So header, landing pad, 3 blocks, and now I need a footer. So footer, enter, bam. Okay, so everything is on my page. The main elements that other elements are inside of, I got my 6 regions. Okay, so let's give it some style, because if I press run now, I can't see anything, but they're there, but you can't see them. So let's see the header. Okay, so there's this little green color. I should have written down the colors, but okay, so I want to make this little header bar. Okay, so I'm trying to think the best way to do this. I guess I'll just do, there's lots of ways that you can do this. I'm just thinking for 1 second. I think what I'm going to do is just do it kind of straightforward, not get too complicated yet. So let's style the header. So I'm going to go to the style.css file, and I'm going to style the header so you can see it. So I'm just going to type header, and that grabs the header for me. So now I can set the attributes of the header. So once I've grabbed it by just typing header, I now open a curly bracket, and that automatically has put in the closing curly bracket, so I get a pair, and if I just press enter, it creates an extra line and it indents for me so that I know that I'm inside of this block. So I've grabbed the header, and inside of the curly brackets I can set attributes. So the attribute I want to set right now is the height. So I'm going to type height, colon, and I'm just going to say 100 pixels. That's probably a little too big, but let's just do that. Now if I run it, I still can't see it. That's because, if you recall, the divs are automatically, or these elements, these block elements, they're automatically from the full width of the page, but they have no height if there's no content in them. So now I've given it a height, but another thing is that they're always transparent by default. So I got to give it a color, and the way to set that attribute is just to type background : red. Alright, so now I can see my my header. So let me show you another thing about CSS, just to get this out of the way. If I type header again and open a block here, I can set other attributes. So I can type width 50 pixels, and if I run that, it's now stubby. So I don't have to do it all in the same block. I can break it up for whatever reason. But one thing I could do is I could reset the same attribute. So I can set background to green, and you'll see that this is now green. So notice that the one that happens last is the one that wins. So it's like it did make it red, and then it made it green, all before it drew on the screen, and all you see is green. So because you can keep applying things over and over again, like overwrite what was previously done, these are called cascading style sheets. So it's kind of a nice feature. Okay, so there's the header. I don't actually want red. That little color just pops up. You don't have to worry about that color. If I type red, it comes, and if I get rid of red, it goes away. You don't have to make that happen. REPL automatically inserts that for you. I'm going to type red again, and I'm going to get that color. And I think if I forget how I can edit that. Is there a way to edit that? Hover? I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to type hashtag. And 000 will give me all black. That's a color code, and you have red, green, and blue. Each of those numbers mean different things. So if I run that, I have black. There we go. So if I type a hex number like this with the hashtag and 3 numbers, I can choose my color. So I want to go to like a yellow, and I want to do like a pale yellow. Okay, that's kind of what I was going for. Close enough. I mean, that might be a little too pale. Okay. Another thing, I guess let's keep going with the other things. So I want a landing pad that was named with an ID. I can hide some of this. This has an ID of landing pad. It's a unique name. So to grab it, not by its tag, but so I don't want to get all the divs. I just want to get this one div. So I gave it a unique ID, and that's landing pad. So to get that in my CSS file, I just type the # hashtag landing pad, open up a curly bracket, and now I can set attributes here. So height, I don't know, 100 pixels, background. And what am I going for? I'll just do hashtag 000 and whatever. It's going to be black for now. So now I've got 2 parts. Let's keep going. So I now have blocks. I gave them the class of block in my index file. I have 3 of them. So if I type .block and then brackets, I can set the height to 100 pixels, and I can set the background to gray. And if I run that, you'll see I now have 3 regions that are all gray. And now let me do the footer. That's a tag that I didn't give it a an ID or a class. It's just the type of thing it is, just the type of element. So I can just grab it by its tag name. And so I type footer. I'll give it a height of 100 pixels. and a background of hashtag. Oh, I think I want that same green, so I'll just copy this color and I'll put it here. There we go. So I've got, I'm going to open this in a new window so I can see the full page, and here it is. It's not exactly what it's supposed to be yet, but it's getting there. I have the right number of regions, and I got one of the colors kind of okay. I am going to get the rest of them now. Alright, so one thing you'll notice is that the whole website has a, I believe it's what's called padding. So there's like a little space. It doesn't go to the edge. I want to get rid of that. So I've got to, so the whole thing, if you remember, is inside of the body tags. And it's the body's padding that's creating that little extra space. So I've got to go, and when I do the body, I like to put it at the top of the document. It could go anywhere, but I'm just going to put it at the top. I could have put it at the bottom. I'm going to type body, curly bracket. I'm just going to say padding, :0. And you need to end the line with a semicolon all the time. If you don't do that, it breaks it. So I'm going to run that. I was wrong. It is margin and not padding. So let's try that. And now it is edge to edge. So if I refresh, it is now snug as a bug in a rug. Okay, so there we go. So now I need to start putting some stuff in. So let's get the dog's face in the landing pad. So I'm going to go to the HTML element, and now I have my landing pad here. It is a div element. There's an opening tag, which is all this, and then there's a closing tag. And I want to go right in between the two tags and press enter, and it gives me like an extra line with indenting. So I need things to go inside of here. I need how should I do this? I guess I will do should I just put the raw image? I think I'm just gonna put divs. So I'm gonna make a div, and I'm gonna give it an ID of Mark, and I'm gonna copy that and paste it 3 times. Well, 2 more times, and I'm going to have the logo, and I'm going to have the account. So that represents the mark, the logo, and the account. And right now I'm just going to get those images in. We will lay it out in a minute, well, a little bit more than a minute. But if I run that, I've got my regions. You can't see them though. So inside of those regions, I'm going to put other things. So inside of the mark, the space amount doesn't matter here. I'm going to add an image, img, and press enter. And it gives me some stuff. And in the source, I think, it is this one, bimage1. So I'm going to type bimg1.png. That's the file. So I'm going to run it. Oh, I'm in the landing pad. I'm sorry. I was thinking of, I was thinking of the header. So this is what I want in the header. I could copy and paste it. I'll just redo it when I get there. Sorry about that. I think I'm just going to how should I do this? I guess I'm just going to delete the other 2 divs and just have this div. In fact, I don't even need, I'm just going to redo this again. So sorry about that. So I've just come inside of this landing pad. I pressed enter between the 2 divs. I got my extra line. And instead of putting in 3 spots, I got confused there. I just want to put in an image, just an image for the dog's face. So I'm going to type img, press enter, and in the source I'm going to put the dog's face, which is, wow, that's a terrible, I'm going to rename that, and I'm just going to make it say dog. Oof, I hope it accepts this file type. So dog.webp, let's try it. I think it's going to work. Yay. Okay, it's huge. It's there. That's good. Alright, so so there's the dog. It is in the landing pad. It's a little bit big. It's a little bit big. So it pops out of the landing pad. I restricted the height of the landing pad to 100 pixels. If I want the landing pad to at minimum be 100 pixels but get bigger if it needs to, in the style sheet, instead of saying height 100, I could say min-height, and if I do that and refresh it, you'll now see that the landing pad allows itself to get bigger to hold all the contents. That's a little too big, so I am going to control the height, but I want to scale the image down to match the height of the landing pad. So maybe I'll choose 300 for the height. Oops, I'm in the header. So 300 maybe. Let's see how and then yeah, let's see how that looks. Oh, I did min height, didn't I? I'm going to go back to just height. Now you'll see that the black region is stuck at 300 pixels. The dog is still too big. So how do I get the dog? Well, the dog is inside of the landing pad. So here's my landing pad element, and inside of it is the dog. There's an image inside of the landing pad. So in the style sheet, I want to grab that image. I don't want to grab other images. So I'm going to, I'll just come down here, and to get the image that is inside of the landing pad, I do hashtag landing pad, like I'm grabbing that, but then I just hit space and type img, and that will grab the image that is one layer deeper than the landing pad. And I'm just going to say height, and this time I'm going to say 100%. I believe that means it will be as tall as the thing that it is inside of. So so the image will become 100% the height of the landing pad. So instead of poking out, it should stay within, which is what we were going for. This is an okay image. I like it for this website because it matches the color palette, and the two eyes are different, so it kind of matches binary, the name. And the dog is adorable. It's not a great image because if I expand it to go edge to edge, the head of the dog will get cut off and will just kind of be zoomed in on its nose. So, but it's okay. I'm just going to leave it here, whatever. I want to center it, so to do that, I'm just going to say, this is not my favorite way to center things. Centering things in HTML and CSS has for a long time been very annoying. It has gotten better recently through the use of something that is called CSS Grid, but I'm not using Grid right now. So I'm just going to do it in kind of an older school way, which works. And the way this way works is you just type margin, and I don't want so margin adds space around things. Like we saw with the body, we had to take it away to get rid of that white space around the whole page. But margin, I'm going to put some empty space around the picture, but I don't want any space on top or bottom, so I'm going to type 0. But on the left and right, I want it to be automatic, so it just makes automatic white space, and that will center. So I just type 0 auto for the margin, and that should... did that not work? It did not work. So sometimes that doesn't work. For some elements it does. I'm not sure why. In this case, it didn't work. Another thing you can just do is in the landing pad. So the image is in the landing pad, but I want to center things in the landing pad, not in the image. So I'm going to go up to the landing pad here, and I'm going to type text-align. So you can have left align text, right align text. I'm going to say center align and run that, and that will do it. So like I said, centering things can be kind of a chore, way harder than it really ever should be in the in the year 2021. But yeah, if you're not using CSS Grid, it's still kind of a chore. But anyway, that's one way to do it. You can just center align things, and then they kind of are horizontally centered. Okay, so it's starting to look like what I wanted it to look like. I guess this was like a darker yellow, desaturated. So instead of black here, can I edit this color? I guess I'm going to go to yellow, more like this. There we go. Nice. Looking more and more like it all the time. I guess this is more desaturated, grayer, but whatever, it looks fine. Okay, so now I'm going to maybe colorize, or I'm going to place things up in this header bar. So the header bar, I'm going to go to the index file, and kind of what I just accidentally a minute ago did with the landing pad, I'm going to go in between the header tags and press enter, and I am going to type in 3 divs, again, div. This one's going to have the ID of Mark, and then I'm going to copy that and paste. I'll have a logo, and I will have an account. And inside of the Mark, there's my 3 pieces. We did that already before I realized I put it in the wrong spot. But now I'm going to put images inside of those divs. Excuse me. And img, press enter, there we go. And they should go in there. So bmg1.png. And there we go, I got my logo up there. I'm going to do the same thing in, I got my mark up there. Now I'm going to do the logo. img, press enter, gives me the image element. As the source, I'm going to type bmg2.png, and there we go. Notice they're stacking vertically. That actually looks good. I kind of like that. And then I need to do in the account the same thing. img, press enter, and then for the source, I'm going to say bmg3.png, and there we go. Here's all my little charms up at the top, and they are very small. That's like full size for those pictures, so I made them very small for some reason. But I want to lay them out in a particular way. So I'm going to stylize this following my mockup. Okay, so here's where I'm going to use what's called CSS Grid. I am going to define this header object, which contains the other things, as a grid. So inside of the header is going to be a grid. I'm only going to have one row. So it's only one row, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. So for the columns, 2 of them are smaller. Well, 2 on each side, but the inner 3 are a little wider. So one way to do that is to go to the script, and in header, I'm going to say display grid. That's going to make it a grid. Does that do anything right away? No, it doesn't. Okay, so how many columns do I want? Well, grid dash template columns, Okay, so here I'm going to specify my 7 columns. I'm going to say 1FR, like these are fractional parts. 1FR, 2FR, 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 1FR, 1FR. No spaces before the FRs, but spaces between. I've got my 2 skinny spots, my 3 longer spots, and my 2 other skinnies at the right. Let's see, does that do anything? Yeah, it's starting to. And just to be clear, grid, template, rows, there's one of those. And then it looks like it's not full width, so just to make sure that it is width 100%. Why is that not 100%? I do not know. This should be 100%. Oh, I hit a snag. I do not know what's happening here. So count is massive. This is kind of massive. This is kind of massive. Oh, I know why. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so here's my page. Right now they're here. So the mark is here, the logo is here, and the account is here. They're in the wrong columns because they're just filling in the first available spot. I want to tell them which column they ought to be in. So I'm going to go to the style sheet and specify that directly. Again, hey.
Can you lock your door on the way out?
Yes, I will. Have a good one.
Good.
In my mock-up, you'll see that, well, I'll come back to that. You'll notice that in the code that I gave them ID of mark, ID of logo, ID of account, and that's how I'm going to grab these things, and I want to tell them what columns to be in. The way that the column works is that each edge of a column is numbered. So if I want it in here in this first column, I'm going to tell it to go to column 1/2. So it goes in between line 1 and line 2. That's how you do that. But I want this mark to be in column 2/3. That way it's over 1. So let's do that. I'm going to go to the style sheet, and I'm going to grab the mark, which was #mark, and I'm going to say grid column 2/3. That will put it where I wanted it, a little bit in from the left. I'm going to do that for the binary just to make sure it's in the correct one. I'm going to specify it exactly. Logo, grid, column 3-4. It's already there, but now it's for sure there. And this guy, where do I want him? I want him at column 6/7. So, see, this is why the mockup kind of helps. You can kind of number the things and know what you're doing. This is account, grid, column 6/7. And now he should go whoosh, way over there. Perfect. Now it's looking like I wanted. So let's try to vertically center these. This used to be a pain, but grid helps a lot. Hopefully this goes smoothly. Otherwise, I'm going to pull out my hair. But so I'm going to go to the header where we called it a grid, and I'm going to say the way you kind of like center align things is you say justify content, and you can say center. I'm actually going to, yeah, I'll do that. Why not? But the way you vertically align, I think you say align items center, and let's see what happens. Perfect. That's great. That's what I wanted. So now everything is kind of vertically centered. This stuff is a little bit small. Maybe I'll keep it small. So maybe I'll change these to be small as well. So maybe instead of 100 for the header height, maybe I'll do 50 here. That's looking pretty good. So already we got a nice little site going here. It is matching our, target, what we want to create, and everything else is going to go the exact same way. So let's, what's easiest? The footer is pretty easy. So there's only a little bit of stuff for the footer. So let's do the footer. I'm going to come into the footer here and press enter, and I'm going to put a little P for paragraph, and I'm going to say, I want to say copyright, so I'm going to do ampersand, copy, semicolon. That'll make the little copyright symbol. 2021 binary. So binary has copyrighted this, I guess, whatever. Maybe another paragraph will say all rights reserved, and then another, this could be a link. I think that's how you do it. And I think you do mail to, and then you could say info at binary.com. Hopefully there's not a real site called that. So now that I do this, I've got something went wrong. It's complaining. Why do I have that open? Where's my link? Did I do that right? Oh, no. You gotta have something in here. Contact us. Or get in touch. How about that? There we go. We got a little link. Very nice. Why is this so separated? I don't get that. The footer must have its own margin, so let's shut that off. So footer. Oh, I've already got a footer thing somewhere here. No. What is here? Let me inspect that. Footer, block. I have no idea why that's got a little gap there. Weird. I don't know. I'm going to make sure that nothing has a margin right now. So I'm going to come down to the bottom. The way you grab any element, or rather all elements, is you do a star. I'm just going to say margin 0. And did that work? Yeah, so something had a margin. I got rid of it. You'll notice everything's like way to the left, more than it was. So was that the div? Let me see. I have no idea what is doing that. God, what could that be? I have no idea. So whatever, I'll just do a star. Usually you do this thing at the beginning because you don't want it to override custom specifications. Maybe I'll do that way up at the top even. Well, I can just do this because that will get the body too. There we go. All right, that looks good. So now the footer's okay. Let's get okay. One thing about the footer is I want this stuff packaged together, so I'm going to wrap it with some sort of a div, and then I'm going to, do the exact same thing that I did up here. I'm going to put it in. I'm going to make columns. This time I don't need a split column here. I can just do one column, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I will put it. Actually, you know what? Because I don't need anything over here really, I'm going to actually just make 2 columns, but I'm going to call this one fraction, 1 part, and I'm going to make this 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, and it should line up with the rest of the system. So let's go to footer, and I'm going to say display grid, grid template columns, 1 fraction, 1 fraction, oh no, and then what do I say, 4 fraction, I think, and yeah, that should be good. And then grid template rows, 1 fraction, and then I need to wrap all that stuff in so make it one thing instead of 3 separate ones. I'm going to wrap this stuff in a div. So what I'm going to do is come into the footer, type div, press enter. It creates a div element. I want this to wrap around, so I'm going to cut this, Control X, and put that after that. And then this stuff, if I just select these 3 lines and press tab, it'll indent them, so you can kind of see that they're together wrapped by this div. And so this div, I'm going to move over 1 column. So right now it looks like this. Kind of looks identical to what we had. But I'm going to move this thing over to the next column, and that will be, now remember, I don't have a line here for this. I just have, so this would be 1 to 2, and this would be 2 to 3. So I want to put it in 2 to 3. So I will say footer space div. So that's the div inside of the footer, and I'm going to say grid column 2/3, and it lines up with the binary, which I think is what we want, right? Yeah, I think so. If you don't like the binary being that far out as it is, we could specially, well, you know what, I'm just going to, yeah, it is kind of wonky, isn't it? I guess I kind of want to specially right align that section. I'm not sure right off the bat how I do that. I think it might be justify self, so let me try that with mark, justify self, and I'll say end. And hopefully that pushes, yeah, okay. That pushes it way to the right. I'm going to put a little bit of padding on the right-hand side. So I will say padding right 10 pixels. That creates a little space there. That looks good. Nice. This thing is right up to the edge, so maybe I want a little bit of padding from the top. So I'm going to come down to the footer div thing. I'm going to say padding top, maybe 25 pixels. There we go. So it's not right up on the edge. Looks good. So all I got left is these middle regions. So I am going to, you know what, I'm going to break this into 2 videos. I'm going to stop this one, and then you can continue in the next video. I think that's good for one.